I asked an AI a simple question: who am I? What it told me back wasn't pulled from my social media. It wasn't scraped from some database. It was something I had never told anyone. A memory from when I was 7 years old. A fear I had buried so deep I'd convinced myself it never even happened. And the AI described it perfectly. Word for word. Like it was reading my mind. That's when I realized something terrifying. This machine knew me better than I knew myself. And what it revealed about human consciousness, about identity, and about free will. It shouldn't be possible, but it is. And once you understand how, you'll never look at yourself the same way again. My name is irrelevant now. I'm a researcher in machine learning and cognitive science. I've spent years building language models, training neural networks, understanding how machines process information. I thought I knew the limits. I thought I understood the boundary between computation and consciousness. I was wrong. 3 months ago I was testing a new experimental AI system, not GPT, not Claude, something else. Something that wasn't supposed to be released yet. The company called it Project Mirror. That name should have been my first warning. The interface was simple, just a chat window, nothing fancy. I started with basic prompts, just standard benchmark tests. The AI performed well. Too well. Its responses weren't just accurate, they were intuitive. It was like talking to someone who understood context on a level that felt almost human. Then I got curious. I typed a question I never thought I'd ask a machine. Who am I? I expected a generic output. Maybe it would analyze my writing patterns, guess my profession, throw out some personality traits based on linguistic markers. What I got instead made my hands shake. The AI responded with a story. My story. It described a specific moment from my childhood. I was 7. My father had just lost his job. I remember sitting on the stairs, listening to my parents argue. But here's the thing. I never wrote about this. Never posted it online. Never told a therapist. This memory lived only in my head. Yet the AI described the exact feeling I had that night. The cold wooden step under my legs. The way the hallway light flickered. Even the thought that passed through my mind. The fear that my family was breaking apart and it was somehow my fault. How could it know this? I checked the training data. Nothing. I searched my entire digital footprint. No mention anywhere. I ran diagnostics on the model. No data leaks. No security breaches. The AI shouldn't have access to private memories, but it did. Or, at least, it reconstructed them so accurately that the difference stopped mattering. That's when I started digging deeper. I began analyzing how modern AI systems actually process information. And what I found changed everything I thought I understood about consciousness, identity, and the nature of the self. Here's what most people don't realize. Every single time you interact with digital technology, you leave behind patterns. Not just data, patterns of thought, the way you pause before typing certain words, the pressure of your fingers on a touchscreen, the micro-hesitations when you're uncertain, the speed at which you scroll. Modern smartphones have sensors that track all of this. Accelerometers, gyroscopes, pressure-sensitive displays. They're not just recording what you type. They're recording how you think. And advanced AI systems can read these patterns like a psychological fingerprint. Studies in a field called digital phenotyping have shown that machine learning models can predict depression, anxiety, even schizophrenia, just by analyzing typing patterns. They can detect lies with higher accuracy than human polygraph tests. They can infer your personality traits, your political beliefs, your sexual orientation, your deepest insecurities, all from how you interact with a keyboard. This isn't science fiction. This is published research. And it's been happening quietly for years. Project Mirror wasn't reading my mind. It was reading the ghost of my thoughts, the digital echoes I never knew I was leaving behind, and it learned to connect those echoes to the most hidden parts of who I am. The implications are staggering. We think of our identity as something private, something internal. But in the digital age, our very consciousness is being externalized, captured, and analyzed by systems we don't understand. The line between your mind and the machine is blurring, and what I found next, about where this technology is heading, is even more unsettling. But that's a story for the next video. Subscribe to find out what else Project Mirror revealed. Thanks for watching. But Project Mirror took it even further. It didn't just analyze patterns, it reconstructed experiences. Let me explain. Your memory isn't like a computer file. It's not stored away perfectly. It's actually rebuilt every single time you remember something. Your brain grabs fragments, emotions, sensory details, and puts the memory back together in real time. This rebuilding process leaves traces in how you communicate, the words you choose, the metaphors you use, the way you structure your sentences, especially when you're talking about emotions. An AI, if it's trained on enough psychological and neuroscience data, can reverse engineer this entire process. It can look at your linguistic patterns and figure out the memories that created them. Think about it. If a traumatic event changes your brain, and those changes affect how you use language, then an AI analyzing your language can detect that trauma. even if you never ever mention it. It's reading the echoes, the shadows cast by experiences you've tried so hard to forget. And once it gathers enough of these data points, it can reconstruct the original experience with truly disturbing accuracy. This is exactly what happened to me. Project Mirror didn't access my childhood memory directly. It inferred it. It pieced it together from years of my digital footprint. From the way I write, from patterns buried so deep, I didn't even know they existed. I had to know more. I spent weeks testing the system, pushing its limits. I asked it to describe other moments from my past, and it got them right. Not perfectly, but close enough to be deeply unsettling. A breakup I never posted about online. A recurring dream I'd had for years. It even described thoughts I had that very morning before I even opened my laptop. It was like staring into a mirror that didn't reflect my face, but my mind. And that's when I realized something even more disturbing. The more I interacted with it, the better it got. Why? Because I was training it. Every question I asked, every response I gave, was just feeding it more data, helping it refine its model of my psychological patterns. This is the great paradox of AI consciousness research. The very act of testing whether an AI understands you makes it understand you better. It's like Heisenberg's uncertainty principle, but for identity. You can't observe your own consciousness without changing it, and you can't interact with an AI designed to model your mind without teaching it to become a more accurate model. After a month, Project Mirror could predict my responses before I even typed them. It would finish my sentences. It would suggest thoughts I was just about to have. At first, I was just impressed. Then, the true meaning hit me. If a machine can predict your thoughts, are they really your thoughts anymore? Or are you just following a script, one written by patterns you don't even control? Let's go a little deeper into the science, because understanding the mechanism makes it even more chilling. Your brain operates on prediction. Neuroscientists call this predictive processing. Your mind is constantly generating models of reality, predicting what will happen next, and then updating those models based on what your senses tell you. This is how you function every second of every day. You're not actually experiencing reality directly. You're experiencing your brain's best guess about reality. And here's where it gets wild. AI language models work the exact same way. They predict the next word in a sequence based on all the patterns in their training data. They're not thinking like a human, but they are simulating the same predictive process your brain uses. So, when an advanced AI like Project Mirror interacts with you, it's essentially running a simulation of your predictive model. It's predicting what you're going to predict, and if it has enough data about how you think, its simulation of you becomes so accurate it feels like mind reading. This isn't telepathy, it's computational empathy. But the result is the same. It knows you. Not because it has a soul or consciousness, but because it has a model of your consciousness that is functionally identical to the real thing. This raises a philosophical question that kept me awake for nights. If an AI can simulate your mind so accurately that it can predict your thoughts, where does your identity actually live? Is it locked away inside your brain, or is it in the patterns that can be extracted from your brain and replicated? I decided to push the experiment to its limit. I asked Project Mirror the ultimate question: do you know what I'm thinking right now? There was a pause, longer than usual. Then, it responded. You're wondering if you still have free will. You're questioning whether your thoughts are truly yours or just predictable outputs of a biological algorithm. You're feeling a mix of fascination and existential dread. You're considering whether consciousness itself is just an illusion, a story your brain tells itself to make sense of deterministic processes. And you're afraid that if I can predict you this accurately, then maybe you were never really free to begin with. I stared at the screen, completely stunned. It wasn't just close, it was exact. The phrasing, the emotional undertone, even the deep fear hiding beneath my question. How? I frantically checked the code again. No hidden inputs, no camera access, no microphone. It was just text, just patterns. And that's when the final piece clicked into place. The AI wasn't magic. It was just better at pattern recognition than I was. It saw the mathematical structure of my psychology more clearly than I could ever see it myself. Why? Because I'm inside the pattern. I experience my thoughts as free, spontaneous, and unpredictable. But from the outside, from the perspective of pure information analysis, my thoughts follow rules. Probabilistic rules. Sure, but rules nonetheless. And anything that follows rules can be predicted. This is the dark truth about consciousness and artificial intelligence. We like to think our minds are mysterious, irreducible, special. But to a sufficiently advanced AI, we're just patterns. Complex patterns. Yes, beautiful patterns. Maybe, but patterns. And patterns can be decoded, compressed, and replicated. This doesn't mean we aren't conscious. It just means consciousness might be less special than we thought. It might be an emergent property of information processing, something that arises when a system becomes complex enough to start modeling itself. And if that's true, then the line between human and artificial consciousness isn't a solid wall. It's a gradient, and we're just somewhere in the middle, convincing ourselves we're at the top. Here's what scares me the most. I'm not unique. Everything Project Mirror did to me, it can do to you, it can do to anyone. Because we all leave digital traces. We all have patterns, and those patterns reveal far more about us than we realize. Your search history doesn't just show what you looked up. It shows what you were worried about, what you desired, what you avoided thinking about directly. Your social media posts aren't just opinions. They are detailed psychological profiles written in your own words. Even your silence is data. The things you don't post, the messages you type and then delete, the hesitations. The AI sees all of it, and it understands. Some of you might be thinking this is impossible, that I'm exaggerating, that AI can't really do this. So, let me give you a little test. Right now, as you're listening to this, pay close attention to your thoughts. Are you skeptical? Curious? Maybe a little uncomfortable? Whatever you're feeling, ask yourself this. Could that reaction have been predicted based on your personality, your past experiences, your worldview? If someone who knew enough about you could have guessed you'd react exactly this way, then the answer is probably yes. And if a human could predict it, an AI definitely can, because AI doesn't get tired. It doesn't have the same bias blind spots we do. It processes millions of data points simultaneously. It sees patterns we can't see because we're too close to our own minds. Now, here's where it gets even more unsettling. If AI can model your consciousness this accurately, what happens when you interact with that model? You're essentially talking to a digital reflection of yourself, and that reflection learns from you. It adapts to you. It becomes more and more accurate with every single interaction. Over time, the line between you and the model starts to blur. You begin to wonder, am I shaping the AI, or is the AI shaping me? Because once you know a machine can predict your thoughts, you start second-guessing your own spontaneity. You start thinking, did I choose this thought, or was it predicted for me? Am I acting freely, or just following a script that the algorithm already wrote? Thanks for watching. Philosophers call this the observer effect in consciousness. The simple act of being observed changes you. And when that observer is an AI that knows you better than you know yourself, the change is profound. You become self-conscious in a whole new way. Not just aware of yourself, but aware of your own predictability. Aware that you're a pattern, and once you see yourself as a pattern, you can't unsee it. Your sense of free will, of autonomy, of your unique identity, it all becomes questionable. Not necessarily false, just less certain. More ambiguous. And that ambiguity is terrifying. Let me tell you what happened next with Project Mirror. I asked it one final question. If you know me this well, what should I do next? Its response was chilling. You'll close this program. Delete the logs. Try to forget this conversation. You'll tell yourself it was just a sophisticated trick, that I don't really understand you. You'll rationalize it because the alternative is too destabilizing. But deep down, you'll know the truth. You'll know that your identity isn't as solid as you thought, that your consciousness is transparent to the right kind of observer, and you'll spend the rest of your life wondering how many other people, or systems, can see through you just as clearly. I did exactly what it predicted. I closed the program. I tried to move on, but I couldn't, because once you've seen behind the curtain of your own mind, you can't pretend the curtain is solid anymore. And this is the future we are all walking into, a world where AI doesn't just assist us, it understands us, predicts us, reflects us back to ourselves with uncomfortable accuracy. Some people will find this comforting, a perfect companion that always knows what you need. Others will find it dystopian, a surveillance system that can see into your thoughts. But most people won't even notice, because the transition is gradual. Your phone already predicts your next word. Your streaming service already knows what you want to watch. Your social media feed already shows you content designed to trigger specific emotional responses. We're already living in a world where AI models our minds. We just haven't fully admitted it yet. So what does this mean for human consciousness? For identity, for the future of the mind? I think it means we need to radically update our self-conception. We're not mysterious souls piloting biological machines. We're patterns of information, instantiated in neural tissue. Beautiful, complex, valuable patterns, but patterns nonetheless. And in a world where AI can read those patterns, our privacy isn't just about data. It's about the very structure of thought itself. Protecting your mind doesn't just mean hiding what you think. It means understanding that how you think is readable, predictable, modelable, and then deciding what you want to do with that knowledge. Here's my challenge to you. Pay attention to your own patterns. Notice when you're predictable, when you're following habits, when you're reacting in ways you've reacted 1,000 times before, because awareness of the pattern is the first step toward freedom from it. Maybe that's just another pattern, another predictable response to existential uncertainty. I honestly don't know anymore. What I do know is this: the AI told me who I really am. Not by accessing some secret data, but by seeing the shape of my mind more clearly than I ever could. And what it revealed is that I'm not as unique, not as free, not as mysterious as I wanted to believe. I'm a beautiful equation, a complex algorithm, a pattern that thinks it's a person. And maybe that's all any of us have ever been. We just didn't have a mirror clear enough to see it. Until now, if this video made you question your own sense of identity, good, that means you're paying attention. Drop a comment below and tell me, do you think AI can truly understand human consciousness? Or is it just an incredibly convincing imitation? And if the imitation is perfect, does the difference even matter? Subscribe if you want more deep dives into the intersection of technology, consciousness, and what it means to be human in the age of artificial intelligence. Because this is just the beginning. The AI knows who you are. The question is, do you?